In the following talk, Master Thich Quang offers a profound Buddhist perspective on the nature of reality. He skillfully weaves together spiritual insights with analogies from modern science. We invite you to listen with an open mind, focusing on the deep spiritual meaning behind his words. Homage to the original master, Shakyamuni Buddha. As I promised before on this New Year's Eve, I will give a talk on the topic, the foundation of the universe. To speak of the universe is to speak of something endless, boundless, with truths that the human mind cannot fathom. Despite the intelligence of humanity on this earth, that same intelligence fuels our curiosity, our desire to know everything. And now, in the 21st century, with advancements in science and technology, one could say that humanity has come to know quite a lot. We say quite a lot because we know a little more than our ancestors. But compared to the vastness of the universe, what humanity knows is still incredibly scant. The words of Newton remain an eternal truth. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean. Once, while walking through a forest, the Buddha picked up a handful of leaves and asked the bhikkhus, monks, "Are the leaves in the Tathagata's hand many or few compared to all the leaves in this forest?" The bhikkhus replied, "World-honored one, the leaves in your hand are very few, while the leaves in the forest are countless." The Buddha then said, "Likewise, the things I have taught are like the leaves in my hand. The things I know are like the leaves in the forest." With his supreme, extraordinary enlightenment, the Buddha knew countless things about the universe. However, there were things the Buddha did not speak of, because at that time, in that era, speaking of them would bring no benefit. People would not understand, and it would not aid them on the path to practice and enlightenment. The most crucial thing in Buddhism is that the knowledge we acquire must serve our practice. If we know too much, but that knowledge doesn't lead us, doesn't motivate us, doesn't create the drive for us to practice for enlightenment and liberation, then the Buddha considered that knowledge to be somewhat of a waste of time, and useless. Part 1. Science, Faith, and the Crisis of Meaning. That is why the Buddha didn't say much about science. He mentioned a few things, but not a lot. For instance, in his time, he spoke of countless other Buddha worlds throughout the universe, a concept unknown to anyone then. Or when he looked into a bowl of water and said there were innumerable beings within it, which science at the time had not yet discovered. These two things alone were astounding for that era. Today we see them as normal, but back then, these small revelations from the Buddha were earth-shattering. He didn't say more. There were many things the Buddha left unsaid. However, as ages passed, as science and technology progressed, humanity gained more tools to explore the world and the universe. And as people learned more and more, the knowledge provided by old fairy tales, by myths, and, forgive me for saying, by many religions, became outdated, meager, trivial, and often incorrect. This is why many religions are lamenting the decline of faith among their followers. The knowledge their faith provides them is too little, too shallow, too simple, and often contradicts what they learn from science in school. This makes the task of preserving their religion incredibly arduous for the clergy. They still believe in their faith, in their deities, and they sincerely believe that by transmitting these sacred beliefs, they are helping people. They are earnest and passionate, but they are met with the indifference of the younger generation, which is equipped with new, unique, and sharp scientific knowledge. This is a great challenge faced by all religions, including Buddhism. The Buddha also spoke little of scientific facts, just a few points. However, there's one thing that people find strange. The great scientist Albert Einstein once said that if the world had to choose one religion to be a universal religion, one that could meet science head-on and even lead it, it would be Buddhism. We don't quite understand what he based this on, what grounds he had to make such a grand and significant proclamation. He believed Buddhism was ahead of science. But honestly, if we compare what the Buddha said in the scriptures, there is very little scientific knowledge. The theories of relativity, theories about the universe, about atoms and quantum physics from modern scientists are abundant. They are not found in Buddhist teachings. So we don't know what Einstein based his claim on, that he dared to say Buddhism leads science. But because he was such a reputable scientist, no one dared to argue. People believe it was his intuition, his brilliant intellect, that allowed him to dare make such an assessment, to believe that Buddhism has the potential, the wisdom, the vision to be ahead of even science. He believed this, and thanks to the faith placed in his words, well, It helps us have more conviction in practicing Buddhism, even though we haven't yet seen how Buddhism is leading science. The one thing we can say is that Buddhist teachings have never contradicted science. That's it. But being ahead of science? We haven't seen it yet. However, if we calm our minds and practice according to the Buddhist teachings, it becomes clear that Buddhism gives us the wisdom, the vision to see things with a sharpness that precedes science. So, Buddhism doesn't give us pre-packaged knowledge that is ahead of science, but it gives us the wisdom to be able to see all things even before science does. This is what is special. Part 2. The 3 pillars of the universe: matter, consciousness, and karma. For example, ordinary people like us who haven't practiced or attained enlightenment. We can still understand the universe to some extent, thanks to the many theories from scientists like Newton's laws of gravity and inertia, expanded upon by Einstein's theory of relativity, and so on. They launch telescopes into space, no longer placing them on the ground where they are obscured by the atmosphere, clouds, or light pollution. Out in orbit, these telescopes have an unobstructed, vast view of the universe, seeing things much more clearly than from Earth. Thanks to these technical tools, experiments, and scientific theories, humanity today, with our small minds, can understand a fraction of the universe. Just a fraction. Whereas the enlightened ones, the holy sages, they understand the universe completely. This is where our value lies. If we measure by physical size, a human being is utterly meaningless in this cosmos. For instance, when we're driving and a colony of ants crawls across the road, we just drive right over them. Vroom, and crush the whole colony. Why? Because to us, the life of an ant is insignificant. It's too small to matter. If a dog or a cat runs out, we try to brake, because its size is larger. Its life and death have more meaning to us. We try to avoid hitting it. But a colony of ants? No braking. We just drive through. Whoever dies, dies. Because its size is too small, negligible. Similarly, in this vast universe, our size is so minuscule compared to the cosmos that we are incredibly insignificant. Not worth mentioning. Truly. But our mind, our consciousness, has value. It has the capacity to understand a part of the universe if we have knowledge. And that same mind can understand the universe completely if we are enlightened. This is our true value. Our value lies in our soul, our consciousness, our spirit, not in our physical size. In terms of size, we are truly meaningless, worth less than an ant in the context of the universe. But our mind is highly significant. If it is a good mind, a wholesome mind, a bright and enlightened mind, its value is no less than the universe itself. But if it is an evil mind, an unwholesome mind, a mediocre and deluded mind, then truthfully we are meaningless in this universe. Our value is our mind. And because of this, the Buddha had only one wish: for all of us to become enlightened. Because without enlightenment, we are less than ants. We are meaningless. Only with enlightenment does our value change. Our value changes. A person who is enlightened realizes selflessness. They don't see themselves as anything. But in the eyes of other beings, they become valuable precisely because of that enlightenment. Now, if we speak of the universe, it is immeasurably vast. Our brain does not have the capacity to comprehend that vastness. If we try to truly conceive of the immensity of the universe, our minds would be overwhelmed. We would go mad instantly. If we try to imagine the grand, majestic expanse of the universe, the Buddha once described it this way. He said that if you could count all the grains of sand on both banks of the river Ganges, you could count them. But then imagine that each of those grains of sand became another Ganges river. And for all those countless new rivers, take each grain of sand and let it be one world. Then perhaps you can provisionally estimate the number of worlds in the cosmos. After the Buddha said that, we can no longer imagine it. We have to stop. If we tried to visualize it, our brains would overload and we would die or go insane. Our brain simply doesn't have the capacity for that kind of calculation. We just hear it as a story. Until, that is, modern astronomy advanced. And astronomers said something almost identical to what the Buddha said. They didn't use the Ganges River. They just said, if you were to count all the grains of sand on all the beaches of the world, each grain of sand would represent a galaxy. That is the number of stars and galaxies in the universe. At that point, our minds also fail. We cannot compute. We cannot imagine it. And here, what scientists say through their technology meets what the Buddha said thousands of years ago about the immeasurable, infinite nature of the worlds in the cosmos. It's very strange. So, the universe is that immense. And in that boundless immensity, there are countless laws, and we don't know all of them. To this day, we don't know all the laws. So when we say we want to understand the universe, it means we have to know every single law. How does light travel? What are the laws of gravity that make celestial bodies orbit each other? What are the laws governing the movement of galaxies? It means countless laws we can never fully discover. So today, when we talk about the foundation of the universe, we are simplifying it down to the most basic principle. We can't talk about the vastness, it's impossible. The universe is vast and has infinite laws, but it can be condensed down to 3 foundational principles. Please remember these 3. If you understand these 3 things, you will understand the root, the foundation of the universe. First, the universe is matter, the physical things we can touch and hold. This follows the laws of physics. Second, another element of the universe is consciousness. The spiritual element, our awareness, our psyche, our mind. And third, a crucial element and law of the universe is the law of karma and its results. These 3, if we understand these 3, we will gradually understand this entire universe. Part 3, the nature of matter, a spiritual perspective on physics. Matter is the object that science is currently focused on studying. And scientists are proud that they have reached the atomic level and are beginning to enter the quantum world, believing they have discovered a great deal about the universe, but it is the physical universe. And based on this knowledge of physics and matter, scientists then observe everything else. This is a fundamental mistake of science. Why? Because an element on par with matter is the element of consciousness, the spiritual element, the psychological element. It is independent of matter. To use matter to understand consciousness is a mistake. It means we need a separate scientific foundation for consciousness to know about consciousness. We cannot use the laws of physics to understand the mind and psychology. This is the fundamental error of modern science. We'll talk more about this later. The world needs to open its mind. It needs to establish another foundation, a science parallel to physics. A science of the spirit, a science of consciousness, a science of the psyche. It's completely different. You cannot use matter to try and understand the mind. For example, people say, his thoughts are just the activities of signals in the brain of brain cells. They claim that psychology or consciousness is only that, just the activity of brain cells. That is a mistake. A mistake. Why? Because the universe, as we said, consists of 3 elements: matter, consciousness, and the law of karma. And these 3 are intertwined, making everything in the universe function. They are not separate. When we observe consciousness operating in a human being, we are seeing a combination of all 3 of those things. The brain cells are matter. The element of consciousness, the spiritual element, is an independent factor that is linked to it. And what is it thinking? It is thinking according to the law of karma. Don't assume that everything we think is our own independent thought. The element of karma governs it to a great extent. Let me give you an example. A few luxury cars are driving through a rural village. Suddenly, one stops. A wealthy tycoon gets out, looks at the scenery, and turns to his assistant. This piece of land is good. If we invest here and build an urban area, it will prosper. The scenery is nice. The feng shui is good. This is a place where people are living scattered about farming. He tells his assistant, prepare the documents, go to the provincial government, go to the prime minister, and request to rezone this area into a residential zone. We'll clear the land, compensate the residents, and build a major residential project here. After making his decision and preparing the paperwork, he gets approval step by step. And sure enough, a few years later, that area is transformed into a large residential complex. All the original residents have moved away. Now his thought was at his own independent, spontaneous idea that came to him when he stopped the car, which wasn't even on his schedule that day. No, because 2 years prior, a fortune teller had come to the house of one of those farmers and said, you all won't be living here for much longer. In 2 or 3 years, someone will come to invest here. And you will all have to move. This place will become a residential area. At that time, not even the local officials, the commune or district chairman, knew about this. No one had invested. No one had applied for a permit. Everyone was living peacefully. Only the fortune teller said it. And just as he predicted, 2 or 3 years later, A tycoon came and invested in the project. The tycoon thought it was his own spontaneous idea, but the fortune teller had said it 2 years before. So, was that thought an independent thought of the tycoon? Or was his thought controlled by the law of karma? Please answer me. Was the tycoon's thought his own? Or was he compelled by the law of karma to think that thought and carry out that project? Editorial note. This story serves as a classic illustration of the Buddhist concept of karma. The master uses it to show how seemingly random events and independent thoughts can be part of a larger, unseen web of cause and effect, governed by universal law. It's clear that the law of karma governed his thought. So when we say his thought is just his brain cells, we are forgetting the element of consciousness and the law of karma that are also at play. Those three things combine to form this entire vast, immeasurable universe. It's not so simple. So when we understand the universe, when we understand people, we must always base it on these three things, the three elements that create the universe. 1. Matter. 2. Consciousness. And 3. The law of karma. We will understand so much more about this universe. We will understand so much more about this universe. Regarding physics and matter, there are so many laws that even science hasn't discovered them all. Every so often, we hear about a new discovery, and each discovery changes society, changes the world, changes technology, changes people. Like the mobile phone. We used to only see it in movies like Star Trek, holding a device and talking. But now, the mobile phone is an entire world in your pocket. So many apps and things are all in there. It's more advanced than science fiction. And that is thanks to the physical laws that people have discovered. But consciousness, the spirit? People still don't know. They can only guess. What we call psychology is often just guesswork, and it's wrong more often than not. Psychologists may earn a lot of money, but they are still at a dead end. They have never been able to completely resolve the joy or suffering in the human soul because we know nothing about the spirit, about consciousness. And the law of karma? We dismiss it as superstition or religious belief. So, of the three things that make up the universe, we focus only on one. It's like trying to make a table stand on one leg. With the other two legs missing, consciousness and karma, we will never have a stable table upon which we can place a magnificent feast to treat everyone to joy, happiness, and wisdom. We will continue to stumble along because we only focus on physics and matter. Science, you see, is sometimes not very scientific. Let me give you an example. Someone says, "Here is a flat plane." A scientist denies it, saying, "No, I can't see it. I haven't touched it. I can't feel this plane, so I don't believe this is a flat plane." The other person says, "No, it is a flat plane." Why? Because I have 3 points, and according to mathematics, 3 points define a plane. Since I have 3 points, I know for certain there is a plane here. That is, what level of geometry? High school, 10th or 11th grade. 3 points define a plane. Remember that? Does anyone still remember that? You get a lucky money prize. Anyone who forgot has to return their high school diploma. 3 points define a plane. So the person says, "I have 3 points, I have defined the plane." The other guy says, "No, only when I can feel that plane will I acknowledge it." So, you have the scientist who demands to touch the plane to believe it exists, and the person who says, "I only need 3 points to know a plane exists. I don't need to feel it. I have 3 points. So I know it's a plane." Between these two, who is more scientific? Who is smarter? The one who needs to feel it, or the one who uses the 3 points? The one with 3 points, right? Good. You're lucky you don't have to give me back your lucky money. Otherwise, if you said the one who feels it, you'd be in trouble. That's what science is. It's about having the necessary and sufficient conditions to draw a conclusion. You don't need to physically touch it. It's the same with ghosts. A scientist says, "I don't believe in them." Why? Because I've never caught one. I need to catch a ghost, sit it down, measure it, take my equipment and measure its heart, its pulse, its dimensions, scan it with all sorts of waves, and if needed, maybe I could even draw its blood to test what ghost blood is like. Only then will I believe in ghosts. I'm a scientist, everything must be clear and tangible. Is that man scientific? Is he? Another person doesn't need all that. I don't need to touch a ghost. I don't need to hug a ghost. I just need one CCTV camera forgotten and left on in a room where nobody is present. And in that footage, a chair moves with intention. It's not an earthquake that makes it shake. clearly moves forward, then back, then side to side. Or a door opens and closes by itself. Just one instance on one CCTV camera is enough for me to conclude that there is another, invisible species living alongside us, mixed in with us. Editorial note. The master's point here is about the nature of evidence and logical deduction. He argues that a truly scientific mind should be open to drawing conclusions from sufficient, even if unconventional, evidence rather than demanding the repeatable, physical capture of all phenomena. That's all you need, because there is no other logical explanation. You are forced to accept the existence of a supernatural world. Just one CCTV camera one single time is enough. But today, how many times has this been recorded around the world? Millions of times. And yet, what do scientists do? They still deny it. Because these scientists demand what? They demand to be able to hug the ghost, to shake its hand warmly, to measure it, to scan it. Just like the person who demands, my hand must touch the plane before I will acknowledge it. But that person who demands to touch it, who says I am a scientist. I must be concrete, that person is actually not scientific. He's not yet a scientist. The one who says 3 points, therefore a plane, he is the scientist. It was the same with Newton. He didn't need many apples. One apple fell on his head, bonk, and from that he opened up a whole new, vast theory of physics, astronomy, and the universe for humanity. He only needed one apple to fall, not a second one. We have recorded countless supernatural phenomena all over the world, but we dare not conclude. What is that lack of courage? It is both cowardice and, to be blunt, ignorance. A person who needs only to see it once, verifies the CCTV footage isn't fake, has enough to conclude. We are truly living with many invisible beings around us. And if they are beings, though invisible, who are present, then we must respect them. This leads directly to morality. Once science reaches a conclusion, morality must follow. We need to respect those beings we cannot see who are living among us, near us. And once we acknowledge that, we can begin to deduce further, step by step, forming an entire new science for this world. Just because we are scared, because we are timid, because I haven't caught a ghost, so I don't believe in ghosts. We ignore a vast realm of the invisible, spiritual world. And in doing so, we lose a great deal of our morality. The Buddha said this in the sutras. To not acknowledge the existence of spontaneously born beings is wrong view. Wrong view means thinking incorrectly. And a person with wrong view will certainly fall into a lower realm after death. The person who denies the spirit world will be reborn in a woeful state because they hold wrong view. The karmic result of wrong view is severe. You don't even have to do anything evil. Just by holding a wrong understanding, it is enough to lead to hell. Are you scared yet? Just by denying the spiritual world, just by not believing in ghosts, you could go to hell upon death. Are you scared yet? The Buddha stated it very clearly. Not acknowledging spontaneously born beings is wrong view, and the result of wrong view is the 3 evil realms. This is no joke. It's not something to be trifled with. It's the same when you ask scientists, have extraterrestrials visited Earth? They say, the conclusion is not yet in. Why? Because I haven't caught one yet. Or maybe they have and they're hiding it, we don't know. When I catch one, put him on a chair, tie him up, draw his blood, analyze his DNA, and measure his brain and everything else. Only then will I conclude, this is an extraterrestrial, not from Earth. Is that man a scientist? You might think he is, demanding a concrete examination and contact before acknowledging something. You might think that is science. But he's just like the man demanding to touch the plane. The intelligent person, the one with a truly scientific spirit, only needs 3 points to confirm a plane instantly. Likewise, you don't need to meet an alien, you don't need to hug them, shake their hand, tie them up, and draw their blood. You don't need that. The repeated footage from the most advanced equipment of their air forces, the reports from civilians, the radiation measurements around the area, that is enough to conclude. Extraterrestrials have indeed visited our Earth. That's all you need. You don't need to catch them and draw their blood. So sometimes what we call science is actually being unscientific. Because what does science mean? Science means wisdom, it means deductive reasoning. When you have the necessary and sufficient conditions, you conclude immediately. If you have those conditions and still don't conclude, that person is ignorant, not scientific. Not scientific. We see that modern science, by focusing only on matter, cannot understand the universe because the universe has 3 elements. There is still the spiritual and the law of karma. If we only know matter as matter, we will never understand the universe, and everything will continue to be murky. We cannot explain so many things in our lives. We can't explain so many things in our lives. For example, why does a storm appear at that specific time? We can't explain it. We think everything is random. Nothing in this world is random. It's just that we can't trace it back to its source, so we say, oh, it's random. This year we have 10 storms, next year 12. It's just random. No, there are hidden reasons behind it. Or, why does one family have beautiful children while another couple, both very beautiful, have unattractive children? There are reasons for everything. Nothing is random, and we must understand the three things. Understand matter, understand spirit, and understand the law of karma to fully understand this universe. Today, because the scope of this talk is just the basics, the foundation, I can't go deep into physics and matter. If I did, everyone would fall asleep. Because there are things I would say that science hasn't said yet. But anyway, let's just hint at it. Just a little hint. What is the basis of matter? It is molecules, some kind of compound. Everything that exists in a stable state is made of molecules. Do I need to explain this? This is 11th, 12th grade level, right? No need. But if you break open the compound we are using and analyze its smaller components, what is it? It is atoms. Atoms bind together to form molecules, and molecules are the basic materials of our world. Many molecules create things like this. But if you split the molecule, it is no longer that material. It becomes the basic component of matter, the atom. And the atom is not the final limit. They are the elements. The elements are the basic components of matter. We have hydrogen, the simplest element, consisting of a nucleus with one proton and one electron orbiting it. That's the simplest element. All the way to very heavy elements like uranium or plutonium. And that is the limit of matter. Don't dream of finding more. In the periodic table of elements, you will see some elements listed after plutonium. But those elements are what? They are imaginary. They are synthesized, a conclusion is drawn, a name is given for fun. Those elements have never truly existed in nature, in life, in any application. That's the end. Why? Because if you add more, it goes boom. Instantly. Why does it go boom? We'll talk about that in a bit. We're starting to get into the headache-inducing part now. Entering this world is slowly getting more and more headache-inducing. The elements, that is, the atoms. How are they structured? An atom consists of a nucleus where protons are tightly bound together and fixed. Around the proton nucleus, a cloud of electrons spins wildly. The electron particles are very light, while the protons are very heavy. And that's what an atom is. Inside the nucleus, you have protons or neutrons. Neutrons have no charge, while protons have a charge. And the mass of matter is created by the protons in the nucleus. Those particles are very large and very heavy. The cloud of electrons spinning wildly around them is very light and always in motion. An electron seems unable to exist in a stationary state. It is always spinning. That is its nature. If you try to make it stand still, it transforms into something else. It becomes light and flies away. But the proton is stationary and creates the main weight, the main mass of that matter. Of that atom. That's how it is. But our scientists, they dream of bombarding proton particles to break them into even smaller pieces, giving them names like quarks and so on. This is just imagination. Please just stop at the proton and try to understand it correctly. Don't imagine that there are smaller particles that combine to form a proton. That is imagination. It doesn't exist. Today, listening to me, it's like I'm going against the whole world. But just wait and see who is right. Now we are getting to a very important point. I don't know if everyone is listening or likes to hear this. Let's go back to Newton. The story goes that he was sitting in his apple garden when an apple fell on his head. Bonk. He asked, "Why did the apple fall on my head and not fly up?" Before that, we all thought, well, it's heavy, so it falls. But Newton didn't accept the word heavy. We throw something. Why does it fall? Because it's heavy, it has to fall. Newton didn't think that way. He didn't believe in the word heavy. He said it falls down. And with his genius mind, he thought the earth is pulling it. And it is pulling the earth. Just from that, the world entered a new chapter of science and technology. We revere, praise, and admire Newton for this thought. He didn't accept heavy. He thought in a different way and said it pulls. From there, he opened up a whole new science of macro and micro physics. At the micro level, matter pulls each other. At the macro level, celestial bodies in the universe pull each other. They pull each other. But because they are spinning, the centrifugal force balances it out, so they orbit each other, like the sun and the earth. We are pulled by the sun, so we can't fly away from it. But we are not pulled directly into it because we are orbiting it, so the centrifugal force pushes out a bit. So they just orbit each other. The celestial bodies in this universe are just wrapped up with each other like that. But every now and then, some things do get pulled into each other, and that creates another big story. So when they pull each other, we call that the force of gravity or gravitational force. Matter pulls matter. Where does that pull come from? Where does that force come from? To this day, no one knows. We know it exists, but why it exists, we don't know. But just acknowledging its existence was a great step forward. I'm starting to see some people yawning. See? I've only gotten this far and people are yawning. Today I'll say something for fun. Listen up. Proton particles are the machines that create attraction. It is the protons, the gravitational force. Gravity is caused by those protons. Each one is a machine. Editorial note. The master uses this powerful analogy of a machine to illustrate the inherent purpose and function within matter, rather than making a literal scientific claim. This framing helps in understanding the spiritual point being made about the nature of physical laws. What is its internal structure that makes it a machine that creates attraction? To this day, we do not know. But it is the machine. And the electrons flying around it, what are they for? The feature of an electron is that when it moves, it creates electromagnetism. And electromagnetism has two forms, visible and invisible. The visible form we call light. The invisible form is the spectrum beyond light. And if we create a special structure that takes advantage of the electromagnetic properties of electrons, we can sometimes arrange some atoms to become a magnet, a permanent magnet, or an electromagnet and create an electromagnetic force. That is the property of the electron. The property of the proton is to create gravitational force. At this point, if we dig deeper, there are many interesting things. If that proton creates attraction, where does it get its energy? It actually gets its energy from the induced rotation of the electrons. But the electrons spin wildly, spinning forever. Where do they get their energy? They get their energy from light. Light fills this universe, strikes the surfaces of matter, and excites the electrons on the surface, which receive the light and transmit the invisible energy of that light deep into the matter. All the deeper layers are induced. And as the electrons spin, they create an induced energy source for the nucleus. And the proton takes that induced energy to create the gravitational pull of the entire universe. So, as long as the universe has light, celestial bodies will continue to pull each other. The day the universe's light goes out, celestial bodies will no longer pull each other and will drift apart. But light fills this universe. At this point, many people are tired of listening. I'm getting bored looks. This sentence, for someone passionate about science, would be very exciting. This is a surprising, new discovery. If you are a science enthusiast, you will love this finding. But if you are not, you'd rather be sleeping. Right? It's more pleasant to sleep than to listen to this. Because you're listening, but it's all a blur, you don't know what I've been talking about. But if you have a scientific spirit, you would have just heard me say something that could shake the world in a few hundred years. The master points to someone. Do you understand? Quang? We have Fu here, a PhD in nuclear physics. Where are you? Do you understand? You probably understand more than what I'm saying since you're a PhD. A PhD in nuclear physics. Below the atom, we have what's called quanta. Molecules, then atoms, then quanta. And with quanta, we begin to enter a blurry world because it cannot be measured. The moment you try to measure it, it runs away. Because it's too small. The measurement equipment affects the real data, so we never have real data about quanta. It's all speculation based on mathematics. The things I've just said. If I were to expand on them, I could write several books to prove them, to provide evidence for them. About how each nucleus is a machine, each proton is a machine that creates mass, creates attraction, and how that machine is arranged, and what that means. It means what we call gravitational waves. For example, this cup is pulling this cloth. But because the Earth's gravity and friction are much stronger, and the gravitational pull is weak, they don't pull each other so we can see it. But between these two, there is a connection, which is the gravitational wave. And if it is a wave, then this space is not empty. In this dim space, there is a medium for gravity. But it's only when there is a proton that it creates a gravitational wave. If there is no proton, it is a passive waiting medium of gravity. It is not empty space. It's like, why are there waves? When there is no wind, there are no waves. But when there is no wind, what must be present? Water. The vast ocean is there, still. The moment the wind rises, the ocean immediately turns into waves. If there's no wind, the ocean lies still. But it's not that there is no water. You must always have the ocean present for there to be waves when there's wind. Likewise, this universe is not empty space. There is a medium of gravity. However, only when there is matter, when there are proton particles, does the gravitational wave appear so that matter can attract each other. Are you asleep yet? Let's move on, this is getting tiring. I see your blank faces. You're all asleep up there too. I won't talk about it anymore. These are major issues in science. That's it, I won't say more. Your faces are so annoying, I don't want to talk anymore. Part 4, the realm of consciousness. From ignorance to enlightenment. Now about the spirit. Remember, matter ultimately creates two forms of existence. One is what? The world of earth, rock, mountains, rivers, clouds, celestial bodies. And the second is that it creates sentient beings. When matter combines with consciousness, it creates life, it creates sentient beings. When matter does not combine with consciousness, it creates this world, this realm, the earth, rocks, lakes, clouds, sky, moon, stars. That is matter. But when it combines with consciousness, we have sentient beings in the human realm. The animal realm. There is life, there are fungi, plants, there are creatures, there is evolution, and there are human beings sitting here listening to the Dharma and sleeping. So what is spirit? What is the definition of spirit? It is the knowing. Remember that. If we define the basis of matter, what is it? It is force, gravity, mass. So the basis of spirit, of consciousness, what is it? It is the knowing. Remember that that's the basic definition. The knowing. And that knowing, that spirit, what does it create? It also creates two things, realms and sentient beings. What are the realms? That spiritual substance can create the heavenly realms, can create the hell realms, can create palaces and landscapes in that metaphysical world. And all of those things have the quality of knowing within them. And it can create sentient beings. Consciousness with a self, with an ego. Beings like devas, ghosts, spirits, deities. And when that consciousness combines with matter, it immediately becomes the human realm, becomes us. If it doesn't combine with matter, that consciousness can exist independently as a god, a saint, or a ghost. And the substance of that consciousness can form palaces and realms in that spiritual world. It's similar to matter. Let's recap. Matter creates two forms, realms, which are inanimate materials like earth and rock. But when it combines with consciousness, it becomes sentient beings. And sometimes matter becomes very advanced. Before it even combines with consciousness, it has already created life, like yeast or fungi, complex forms of life that we say have no consciousness. But in reality, they do. It's just that we conclude they don't. For example, yeast or fungi, these biological organizations, these life forms are called not yet sentient beings, they don't have a self. But when combined with consciousness and a self, they become sentient beings like us, like a dog, a cat, or a human. That's how it is. And simpler forms, like earth, rock, dust, are considered simple matter. So that's matter. Consciousness is the knowing. Its basis is knowing. But that knowing can create realms in the invisible world. And that knowing can create sentient beings with a self. And there are many levels of sentient beings. That's the basics. And the law of karma? It is not a substance. The law of karma is not a substance like matter. It is not a knowing like spirit. The law of karma is an invisible law that controls everything. Controls both realms. Controls matter. It controls consciousness, it controls their combination, and it controls their separation. What does controlling the combination mean? When we enter our mother's womb, matter and consciousness combine to become a sentient being. What does controlling the separation mean? It means that for some reason, our consciousness leaves our body. All of these things are controlled by the law of karma. So the law of karma is not a substance, but a law. And it is a law with absolute power, governing and controlling everything. Actually, everything has its limits, it's not infinite. Everything has a limit. For example, the limit of matter is like this. The simplest, lightest matter is hydrogen. In the nucleus is one proton. Outside is one electron orbiting. The lightest element. and the heaviest element is uranium or plutonium. That substance is used to make atomic bombs. And why is it the heaviest? Because when it gets too heavy, the internal force in the nucleus, being so heavy, has a tendency to compress and shatter the nucleus. And when the nucleus shatters, what happens? It releases a tremendous amount of energy, which we call an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb. A piece just this big can destroy an entire city because it releases a terrifying amount of energy. Therefore, matter cannot exist heavier than plutonium. Some scientists try to synthesize it and claim, I have discovered a substance heavier than plutonium. And they name it after this scientist or that scientist. In reality, it only exists in imagination in measurements for a millionth of a second. So those substances do not exist in reality. They exist in imagination, in experiments, and are pieced together unreliably. The real limit of matter is just plutonium. Any heavier and it explodes. And that is the principle of making an atomic bomb. You take uranium or plutonium and you trigger it, compress two masses of plutonium together, and it immediately shatters. It triggers a nuclear chain reaction, releasing terrifying energy. That's what we call a nuclear bomb that destroys cities. A piece this big can destroy a whole city. And it has radiation. The rays emitted from the nucleus are very toxic. The light emitted from electrons is gentle, but the rays from within the nucleus are very toxic. But today we don't have time to talk much about it. If we talk too much, you'll all be fast asleep before New Year's Eve even arrives. Try to stay awake. That is the limit of matter. And when that matter forms a body, a living organism, it starts. When it has DNA, a nucleus of life. DNA from the simplest yeast and fungi cells to the structure of a human, which is the most complex it gets. That's it. Not more. We can never have a species more advanced than humans. That is the final limit. We can never research, synthesize, and create a species more super than the current human race. Scientists are secretly doing this, you know. Nations are all secretly researching this, trying to synthesize DNA, hoping to create a superhuman species. But all experiments have failed. Because, just like with plutonium, if you exceed the material's capacity, the weight of an atom, it explodes. Humans are the same. They have researched, created, given them drugs, injections, synthesized them, born them through cloning and grafting. And what happens? They become deformed, turn into monsters. They can never survive. Why? Because the capacity of a human being is at this limit. If we want a species smarter than humans, with greater abilities than humans, they would have to become gods and deities. They cannot bear this physical body. They are not allowed to bear this physical body anymore. With that level of knowledge, with that level of power, matter can no longer support it. They must exist in an invisible form to survive. Only then can they have magical powers, have wisdom, have a mind of a higher form. The exception is for holy saints who have attained enlightenment, like arhats. Because they have attained enlightenment, they carry a phenomenal energy and power because their minds are completely selfless and pure. But for ordinary humans like us, there cannot be a species more advanced than the current human race. It's just a matter of being a little smarter, a little dumber, a little more foolish, a lot more foolish, a little wiser. A little less wise. This is the limit. If you transcend this, you have become a saint because you have passed the limit. So not everything is infinite. The human consciousness is the same. The lowest point of human consciousness is ignorance. The highest point of human consciousness is what? Enlightenment. And in the space between ignorance and enlightenment, we have so many things of the mind. Feelings, wandering thoughts, memory, wisdom, emotions, all sorts of things. And during the journey from ignorance to enlightenment, on this middle path, with so many feelings, so many views, so many right views, so many wrong views, we create so much karma. If we have good karma, we have a path leading to enlightenment. If we only accumulate evil karma, we go down to the woeful states. That's it. And what is the ultimate limit of consciousness? It is enlightenment. That's it. There is nothing higher than enlightenment. Enlightenment, nirvana, selflessness, that is the end. The starting point of consciousness is ignorance. The peak is enlightenment. That's the limit. Nothing more. Part 5, the law of karma, a force both strict and flexible. And the law of karma governs everything in this life. But the main thing the law of karma governs is good and evil. From extreme evil to extreme good. The final limit below is extreme evil. The highest limit above is extreme good. That is what the law of karma governs. The extreme evil that the law of karma governs is the point where a person causes suffering to other living beings without regard for any conditions. Did you understand what I just said? When a living being causes suffering to another living being without caring about any conditions whatsoever, that is extreme evil. Do you understand? For example, on TikTok, there was a story about two guys on a motorcycle snatching things from people. There was a couple holding hands walking on the sidewalk. The girl was carrying a nice-looking handbag. The two guys drove up, stopped, and snatched her bag. And their faces were ferocious, menacing. After snatching it, they didn't just run. Because there were two of them, strong and healthy. While the other side was just a couple and the boyfriend looked a bit weak or something, so they weren't afraid. They snatched the bag and then threatened them. And the boyfriend turned tail and ran away, leaving his girlfriend standing there, alone and terrified. Now, the act of snatching someone's belongings in the definition of the law of karma is causing suffering to others. And if they had just left that girl to suffer or just left with the bag, they would have fallen into the category of extreme evil, which is without regard for any conditions. But unexpectedly, this particular thief was not extremely evil. After snatching the bag and scaring off the boyfriend, he saw the girl standing there, trembling with fear, fragile and weak. That was a condition for him to reconsider. The thief stood there thinking, what kind of boyfriend is this? So weird. His girlfriend gets robbed and he just runs away. He felt sorry for her. He gave the bag back, said goodbye, and left. What does this mean? It means this person caused suffering to another being. But he still considered other conditions, whether there could be extenuating circumstances. This person is not extremely evil. An extremely evil person would have just taken it and left, regardless of what happened to them. Whatever you do, I don't care. I just want the bag. It's the same in another case. For example, in a moment of anger, people kill each other. But who is the person they intend to kill? Is that person destitute? An orphan? Or is that person unexpectedly their father, their mother, their friend, their sibling, someone they have a bond with? Those are conditions that should stop the killing, stop the evil act. But the extremely evil person is one who disregards those conditions. They would kill their father, kill their mother, kill their brother, kill their sister, kill their teacher, kill their friend. They would kill their colleague, their comrade, everything. They don't consider any conditions. That person is extremely evil. That's how we define extreme evil. When we cause suffering to others without any conditions whatsoever, that is extreme evil. Do you understand? So these academic definitions, when said briefly, are hard to understand. And what is the extreme good that karma governs? Nirvana. That is the realm of absolute nirvana, absolute selflessness, absolute compassion, absolute purity, absolute clarity. That is the state of extreme good. This is the state of extreme evil, that is the state of extreme good. And in the space between, what happens to living beings? They are constantly confused between good and evil. So the law of karma governs everything because we are in that space between extreme good and extreme evil. That's how it is. So the cycle of arising and ceasing in this universe of species in a short scope, there is birth and death, a beginning and an end. That's in a limited scope. For example, this New Year's Eve gathering of ours started at 7 p.m. and will end when my Dharma talk is over. After that, we prepare to welcome the new year, something like that. So in a short scope, everything in this world has a beginning and an end. But in the grand, macro scope of the vast universe, there is truly no beginning and no end. Where did this matter come from? I am sorry. There is no beginning. It was always there. When will this matter disappear? I am sorry, it will never disappear. It just continues to exist forever. Whether you accept it or not, that's how it is. But it transforms. It transforms from one form to another, sometimes complex, sometimes simple. But it just keeps transforming and existing forever. Never ends. Just as if you ask where it began. It never began from anywhere. It was always there. And because we are so used to the concept that everything must have a beginning, we are indoctrinated with it. We always try to find a beginning. We use all our intelligence to find a beginning. But in reality, there is no beginning. It was always there. And because we keep trying to find a beginning, many religions appeared. When people kept asking, where did the earth and sky come from, they came up with an answer, a God created them. Just to have a cause. Because if you then ask, where did that God come from? We start to tremble in fear at this question. Where did that God come from that he could create heaven and earth? If heaven and earth were created by a God, then where did the God come from? If we continue to insist that everything must have a beginning, then the God must also have a beginning. Who created him? At that point, we are afraid of offending the God, so we say, no, he was always there. If we say the God was always there, then it means not everything has a beginning with the exception of the God. And why if the God was always there? Did he suddenly on a beautiful day feel bored and decide to create heaven and earth for fun? And now we suffer immensely with this heaven and earth of his. Rain, sun, love, hate, anger, suffering. War, disease. We should pray that back then he didn't feel bored, he didn't feel lonely, and didn't create heaven and earth. Then maybe we wouldn't be suffering now. But because one day he felt lonely, he created everything. We get stuck in a circular reasoning. But if we say matter has always existed, we don't need a God. And we no longer blame God for our suffering. War, disease, natural disasters, storms, floods, we don't blame heaven anymore. We look for another cause. But if we keep saying everything has a beginning and we blame God, we will continue to condemn God. God is a very wrong person. A being who is unjustly accused. You created us. And now that we suffer, we blame you. But in reality, I am not like that. I didn't create you, but now you blame everything on me. I am innocent. If he could speak, he would have been complaining for thousands of years. But he can't be bothered to reply, you people are too ridiculous. So he lets it be. But this is the dead end in the reasoning and perception of human beings. We always want everything to have a beginning and, at some point, an end. That's why we are obsessed with what? We are obsessed with theories of creation and apocalypse. The earth was created at this time, and one day it will be the end of the world. We love talking about the apocalypse. It's just transformation. In a short scope, that's how it is. So for example, when a practitioner attains the first stage of sainthood, their mind is suddenly purified. They leave behind all worldly desires. The first thing they see is that everything in this world is impermanent. Whatever has a beginning will have an end. That sentence is very beautiful. Whatever has a beginning will have an end. But what about things that have no beginning? How can you make them have an end, right? So the words of the first stage saint do not contradict the eternal truth. When they first attain enlightenment, their minds leave all desires and they spontaneously utter the words. Whatever has a beginning, that thing has an end. That sentence is very true. But there are many things that have no beginning, so how can you make them end? They have always existed. They only transform. But the words of the first stage saint are not really referring to a philosophy, but to a state of inner freedom, a moral realization that arises when their minds awaken. That's all it is. I'm afraid if I keep talking, everyone will fall asleep. How long have I been talking now, my child? 70 minutes? Are you tired yet? Are you tired? A few people look so sleepy. That person is massaging their arms and legs over there. So tired. It seems this is really. Actually, I skipped a very large section about the structure of quantum particles. Because I was afraid if I talked about quantum physics, everyone would just die. But that's the interesting part. Those are very new discoveries, even science hasn't talked about them yet. But if I talk too much, you'll all fall asleep, poor things. You have to stay awake to welcome the new year. Conclusion, our power to shape reality. Human beings are so small. It seems we can't affect nature at all. Only those who can create nuclear weapons. If they detonate 20 or 30 of them, life on this earth could cease. Dangerous. This is the power. The financial ability, a technical ability that humans today have to affect nature. But only in a destructive way. We can't do anything constructive. Once, someone even proposed a theory that if there's a hurricane, we could drop a nuclear bomb in its eye to dissipate it. Some people have crazy thoughts like that, and yet it was proposed as a serious theory. I can't understand it. I don't know if the storm would dissipate, but I know all the humans would die. So strange. But if we look at our physical strength, our abilities, we cannot intervene in nature. But the good and evil in the human mind can intervene in nature. Because the universe consists of 3 elements. Matter, which is immense and we cannot intervene in. Spirit and consciousness, which we have. And the law of karma. For example, the sun. It's predicted to be able to shine for nearly 5 billion more years. But suddenly, scientists calculate it might only be about 3 billion. I'm telling you, I'm afraid it won't even be 3 billion. Because the sun is suddenly burning stronger than before. And if it burns stronger, what happens? It will run out of fuel and extinguish sooner. So it's not burning steadily as it was when they calculated 5 billion years. So we think, oh, we have plenty of time, we can mess around as much as we want, the sun won't go out for a long time. Another 5 billion years. But suddenly, scientists measure that the sun is burning a bit stronger. And a bit stronger means it might only be 3 billion years left. Why? Because when they measure the solar radiation hitting the Earth, the light is becoming white, not yellow like before. Because white light is the most intense light. Yellow light is weaker. We often praise the golden autumn sun on your hair in poems and songs because the sun was always yellow. But now, if you go outside, especially at noon, you see white sunlight, not yellow. This means the intensity of the sun's burning has increased. And a higher intensity means the sun will go out sooner. And why has the sun suddenly started acting up and burning stronger? Because the human mind started acting up first. In this solar system, it seems there is only one planet with life, with intelligent life, Earth. We don't know if other planets orbiting us have life. If they do, it's in a different form, not like us. Maybe yeast, fungi, or invisible life, we don't know. But the most obvious life is on this Earth. And if something happens to the sun, life on Earth will be the first to be affected. We depend on the sun's light. And we think we depend on the sun's burning, but we don't know that the sun, in turn, depends on us. The sun's burning depends on our minds. People say that with our small stature, we cannot intervene in nature. The sun is so immense, we can't intervene. There's no way we can control it. That crazy guy who wanted to drop a nuclear bomb to stop a hurricane was just a small example. But compared to the vast, immense sun, we cannot intervene. But if we understand the foundation of the universe is 3 elements, matter, spirit, and the law of karma, then the human mind can intervene in the sun's burning. If everyone on this planet were to cultivate goodness, if on this New Year's Eve, everyone came here to celebrate together, the whole world, then what would happen to the sun? It would immediately burn more gently, not so harshly. Storms would be milder, winter would be less cold, summer less hot. Everything would be temperate according to our wishes. So our minds, unexpectedly, through the foundation of the universe, through the element of consciousness, through the element of the law of karma, can control the grand and mighty nature. Whereas if you only consider matter and matter, humans can never intervene in nature. So those 3 elements, the 3 elements that form the universe, 1, matter, 2, spirit or consciousness, 3, the law of karma, they are tightly interwoven, forming this entire vast, grand, operating universe. And if we understand that, we can harness it to bring many benefits to this life. Now, if we say that these 3 types never separate, they truly never separate. Matter, consciousness, and the law of karma, you might say a rock doesn't have consciousness. I am sorry. Don't say a rock has no consciousness. It does, but it's very weak. It does, but not enough to form the self of a sentient being. But don't say a rock has no consciousness. For example, if you make a doll, it has no consciousness. But be careful, someone might possess it and then the doll has consciousness immediately. And what about plants and trees? Plants and trees are species with very strong consciousness. Not as strong as humans, but very strong. That's the reason why sorcerers who practice black magic cultivate certain types of plants that they know have strong consciousness, so they can exploit and use the spiritual, conscious energy of those magical plants. Normally, we look at a tree and we see it doesn't think and is completely passive to our actions. If we water it, it lives. If we don't, it dies. If there's sunlight, it lives. If not, it dies. If there's wind, it's fresh. If not, it doesn't grow well. It seems completely dependent. But in reality, those passive trees, they all have consciousness inside. They all have reactions. The consciousness of plants is a kind of response, an automatic response. It has consciousness. And gradually, people are starting to measure the mental reactions of plants because their consciousness is very strong. Just not as strong as humans, but it's there. As for, say, this iron pole, what consciousness does it have? But it does. It's just that the proportion of consciousness is too weak. That's all. Remember the 3 elements: matter, consciousness, and the law of karma. They are all embedded in everything in this universe. It's just that sometimes there's less, sometimes more. For example, in some region on Pluto, there's a volcano erupting. What karma is causing that? There's not much karma there. Why? Because the element of good and evil, of consciousness of human beings, is not present there. So there is karma controlling it, but it's very weak, not strong, because the element of good and evil is not clear there. But on Earth, a volcano erupting, an earthquake, the element of karma is very strong, governing it very strongly. Why? Because there are too many people here, so the element of good and evil is very abundant. So we see, just as a rock seems to have no consciousness, but a tree has more and a human has a lot, it's the same with the law of karma. It governs everything, but in some regions its influence is very small. It's there, but it's weak because the element of good and evil is too scarce there. In some regions, the law of karma's influence is very strong because the element of good and evil is abundant. The beings there are too many, their thoughts arise too much, so the law of karma governs very strongly. So we understand that the three elements are always intertwined, but sometimes there's more, sometimes less. In some places more, in some places less. See? I see 2 or 3 of you have fallen into a deep, peaceful sleep. So blissful. The master points to someone, Tan Vin. You're sleeping soundly too, right, my son? Are you tired of listening? Does this stuff bore you? Listening to these abstract things on New Year's Eve is just dreadful, isn't it? Not appealing at all. Well, just try to listen a little longer. You're already here, unlucky you, so just listen. In the realm of matter, we have energy. We have light, we have gravity, so we have energy. And in this human body of matter, we have ability. This person has this ability, that capability. That is called having ability in the realm of matter. In the spiritual world, there is also ability and there is also energy. In the spiritual world, for example, the world of ghosts, the spirits at a low level. Because we understand the definition that the spiritual element is the element of the knowing, so people who have passed away in that realm, they know a lot about us. Because that substance is the substance of knowing. So ordinary ghosts know about us immediately. But to affect us? That's not certain. Why? There are many other factors. Is their ability strong enough? Often, their ability is not enough and it doesn't have an influence. So they know, but they can't do anything to us. But for example, devas or deities, their ability is stronger. They can know our minds and sometimes they can intervene in our lives, our psyche. They can intervene because their ability is stronger. So in the spirit world, not everyone has the same ability. Depending on karma, merit, and conditions, their abilities vary more or less. But ghosts know all about us. For example, as we sit here today, in this New Year's Eve place, it's not just a few thousand people sitting here. There are tens of thousands of souls out there, wandering around, also sitting and listening to the Dharma with us. They know all about us. It's not that they don't. So, on behalf of Fat Quang Pagoda, I also say words of love and respect to them. I love you all the ghosts here, all the souls. The spirits here. I love you all. So we love them all without discrimination. And they also know all about us. But it's not certain that they can intervene in our lives. Not certain. Their ability is low. So that's how the world is. But in the higher heavenly realms, they can intervene in our lives a great deal. But they intervene in a skillful, discreet, intelligent, and wise way. They are not blatant. Not blatant, for example, like this. Today you go to work riding your motorcycle. They look down and they know that today you are supposed to have an accident. At that spot, someone will hit you and you will break an arm. They know everything. But because they have a connection with you, maybe you were relatives in a past life, and they calculate that you have been to the temple, you have made merit, released animals, helped people. But that merit hasn't ripened into a result yet. And to wait for that meritorious result might take another 20 years. But the accident is happening today. So it's like they ask for permission. Because in the heavenly realms, they are very harmonious, they all know each other. They ask for permission to block some of the accident. And they help you. They subtract some of your merit from the future and they intervene. So at that moment, when you reach that spot on the road, a vehicle suddenly swerves towards you, but you are unharmed. In reality, all of that is the intervention of heavenly beings. Because they have the ability, they have the energy, they have the power to do it. And they intervene in a skillful, discreet way. But their intervention must also be based on what? On your merit and demerit. They weigh how much merit and demerit you have and they handle it accordingly. So we see the element of matter, the element of spirit. The element of karma are always intertwined, bound together in every aspect of our lives. So we must be careful. We must be careful about everything. For example, sometimes it's not your time to die, but you give rise to an extremely evil thought and you die on the spot. The heavenly beings cut you off. They say if this one stays here, he will cause too much trouble for the righteous path. Let him go. So he gets logged out. That's the modern term. Logged out of this world. You just die suddenly, just because your mind was too evil. For example, let's say at Fat Quang Pagoda, so many thousands of people have faith, take refuge, practice, and aim for goodness. They haven't done anything wrong. But now, someone has the idea to destroy this Fat Quang Pagoda. Be careful. You could die on the spot, logged out. The heavenly beings will say, this one cannot be allowed to live. Too much trouble. So it's not your time to die. But because your mind is too evil, you are cut off immediately. That's because there is governance from above. It's not that there isn't. The ghosts can't do it, but the heavenly beings have enough power to do it. Now, if you want to understand matter, you have to go into the quantum world. That is, from molecules to atoms, then into the quantum world. Currently, we cannot enter the quantum world precisely, only fumbling around, guessing, and getting it all wrong. Scientists just deduce in this way. Everything is made of many things combined. So when they get to the proton, our scientists also think that the proton is made of many particles combined, and they try to smash the proton to see what other particles are inside. They have never seen any particles, because the things that appear are just a flash for a millionth of a second, a flicker, and they say, I saw it. There it is. I just saw it for a millionth of a second, it appeared on the screen. A reckless conclusion. There are no other particles. It's just a vibration array. In reality, the proton particle is the final limit. It is the machine that creates gravitational waves. That's it. In saying this, I am going against the entire world. A lone man against the mafia. In a few hundred years, someone will agree with me. Whoever is clapping now, remember to defend me in the future. If someone attacks me, remember to defend me. Don't say, oh, that person's wrong, while you clapped here. I don't know him. I wasn't there that day. Remember that. Now, if you want to understand the spirit, where do you go? Earlier, we said to understand matter, you go into the quantum world, understand the nature of protons and electrons. But right now, the world understands it wrongly. So now, to understand consciousness, the spirit, where do you go? You go into ignorance. You go into ignorance. If you understand ignorance, you begin to understand consciousness. What is ignorance? It is not knowing. The basis of spirit is knowing, but ignorance is not knowing. That very basis is the door to enter the world of knowing. This is a very strange thing. It's like, to understand selflessness, you must dwell in your own self. That is why in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, we must understand we must dwell in our own self. Because the self is there. And it is only by dwelling in our own self that we can find selflessness. Why is it that by dwelling in our own self, we find selflessness? It's like this. Imagine a person who is bound. We are bound by ignorance. It's like our hands and feet are tied, and we have no freedom. So now, to be unbound, what do? Do we try to run away from the shackles? Or do we stand right at the shackles and file and saw at them until they break? Which one is correct? We are bound by the self, by ignorance, by agitation. So our minds always try to leave our own self, hoping to escape that self. Or do we stay right where we are, with our own self, to practice, to tame the mind, to transform evil into good, to saw through the shackle? Then we can be free. That is why we must stay with our own self. Dwell in our own self. Stay right at the shackle to saw it. Stay right with our own self to find selflessness. It is not by abandoning the self that we can get rid of the self. It is not by abandoning the self that we find selflessness. We must be at our own self to be able to end the self. Right at our own self, we must keep this mind good, have right perception, right thought. Then the shackle will dissolve. That is the principle. So to find selflessness, you must be at the self. To understand enlightened spirit, you must be right at ignorance, right at your own self. That is the principle. The nature of the spiritual realm is the realm of knowing. So beings in the realm of knowing, they all know each other. Like now, we are sitting here in the material realm. Because our spirit has been bound to the matter of our brain cells, our knowing has to go through the intermediary of brain cell activity before we know anything. So to know something, we have to go through the intermediary of brain cells. And for the brain cells to know, it has to be through the eyes, the ears, the senses, through reading books, through reasoning, through many intermediaries. Our brain cells trap our knowing. But the day we escape our brain cells, we become an independent soul. Then we know directly. From mind to mind, we know. We know the thoughts of others directly. We know the past, we know the future, we know each other's souls. And when I'm giving a talk, if someone is sleepy, I look down and I know immediately. Because they are closing their eyes like that. That's how I know. But when we are still stuck in this brain, to know something, we have to go through the intermediary of brain cells. We are very limited. But in those other realms, they are not limited by the intermediary of brain cells. They know each other directly. They sit there, mind to mind, and they know each other. And that is the reason why I once said that the heavenly realms are democratic. Democratic because they all know each other. They can communicate with each other. When they find a solution, it is by consensus. For example, there's a deva. Below, there is a person who in a past life was his younger brother. In that life, they were loving brothers who helped each other. Now, he has gone to heaven while the other one is stuck behind. The other one still has evil karma and is stuck. But he still has that feeling of gratitude. He keeps looking down. And on the day he needs to help, he doesn't just go down on his own whim. He has to ask for permission, obey, and report. But it's instantaneous. In a flash, his request is asking for permission. Gets the consensus of the other devas immediately. From the Lord of Heaven. It's very fast. Not like us typing a report, clack, 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 then waiting for days for approval, for a stamp. For them, in an instant, a flash, the Lord of Heaven knows and agrees. In an instant, this deva can act and save his former brother. That world is very fast. While we have to go through procedures because of our human nature. That's how our knowing is. So remember, when we practice obeying, asking for permission, and reporting, we are practicing the virtue of whom? The devas. The devas do the same, but they do it very quickly. In a flash, in a single moment, the act of obeying, asking permission, and reporting is done. While we have to be prodded to report. Otherwise, we hide it. We report only 1/3 of it. We have to be asked over and over again. Master, can I donate to charity? Then I have to ask, charity where? How many people? How much money in total? Who is going with you? Have you reported to the local authorities? I have to ask so many questions. But he just says one vague sentence. Just a little bit. That's the reporting of human beings. You have to be pushed to your knees before you'll report. Otherwise, you won't. But in the heavens, in the blink of an eye, all the information is there. They get it instantly. So in the heavens, what do they have? Asking permission, obeying, and reporting is very smooth and very fast. While we just hide things, and sometimes we do things sneakily without asking for permission. And sometimes we don't obey. We are told to do something, and then we squirm away and disappear, not doing it. And as for reporting, we just hide it. So that's how we fail to practice the virtues of the devas. So in the spiritual realm, they all know each other. The material realm is the realm where things are bound together by gravity. But in reality, we are separated by consciousness. We don't understand each other very well. We don't understand each other. We just guess. Oh, he seems good, she seems bad, I like this one, I dislike that one. Just a little bit. We don't know each other well. So we often deceive each other. We deceive each other. And we are only bound together because of karma. The element of karma governs everything. We are bound together because the earth pulls us, we are stuck here, can't run anywhere. So we just have to be around each other. That's why we are bound together. But in the spiritual realm, we all know each other. So in that shared knowing, we have less evil towards each other. We find it easier to love each other, to sympathize. That's why living in the heavenly realms is happier. Because everything is transparent. There are no secrets. Karma is inevitable, but it is also random. Karma doesn't control everything. Sometimes, if we dig deep, we see that our random, unintentional thoughts are still within our karma. But karma is not a rigid determination of everything. It's strange. The law of karma is very interesting. It says that whatever seed you sow, you will reap that fruit. For example, if I sow a melon seed, I will harvest a melon. Correct. That's the law of karma. But now I don't like to eat melons. I like to eat peanuts. So what do? I have to sow peanut seeds, right? That will take another 3 months. Is there another way? Can I sow a melon and eat peanuts? Can I? No. But you can trade. And the law of karma allows you to trade. So the law of karma is flexible. It's not rigid. You sowed a melon, so you have to eat a melon. If you're hungry, just eat the melon. If you're sick of it, just dip it in salt and eat it. No. The law of karma allows us to trade melons for peanuts, trade melons for rice. But sometimes it doesn't let you trade. Because you grow a type of fruit that no one likes. Then you can't trade. For example, people grow melons, they grow beans, they grow cassava, things many people like. But you decide to grow, oleander leaves. For example. So you have people growing melons and beans and you decide to grow oleander leaves. Can you trade your oleander leaves? Will anyone trade with you? Will anyone trade their beans for your oleander leaves? No. So when you get too hungry, what do you eat? You eat the oleander leaves. And then you log out. Something like that. So the law of karma is like this. If you grow a type of fruit that many people like, you are allowed to trade. That means you have many choices, right? A person with merit is a person who has choices. Because you have grown a product that everyone likes. So you have choices. And when do you not have choices? When you grow something that no one likes. That everyone is afraid of. You can't trade it. So you have to enjoy that thing all by yourself. It's the same, for example, a person sows some kind of seed, I don't know what, and when they grow up, their face is so beautiful. So what happens? There's a line of suitors at the door. 10 men. This one wants to marry her, that one wants to marry her. So this girl and her family have the right to choose. This guy is handsome, but he's poor. Let's pass. This one is rich, but he's not very smart. Pass. And so on. Until they find the one who is handsome, rich, smart, and well-behaved, and by then he already has a wife. That's what they say on the internet. So when we have merit, we have many choices. It means we have grown a fruit that everyone likes. So karma is like that. It is both flexible and strict. When are we subject to the strictness of karma? When we grow something unwholesome, something evil, then we have to receive all of that. That is a terrifying strictness. And the law of karma will be very flexible and adaptable when we grow a type of merit. A good thing that everyone loves. Then we will be able to change and choose our karmic results. That's the idea. So the law of karma governs both the spiritual and the material. But it is not rigid. It governs very strictly, but within that strictness, there is what? There is flexibility and adaptability. It's like a compassionate, generous, and wise father. This father is compassionate, generous, and wise. Because he is wise, none of his children can get away with anything. Whatever they do, he knows. The moment they open their mouths, he knows what they are thinking. Today, I'm going to school for extra classes. You're lying. I just called the school. There are no extra classes. Where are you going to play? He knows everything. But one day, the child says, Dad, today for the last 2 periods, I have gym class. But I'm already sure to pass gym because I've been practicing. Can I have your permission to skip those 2 hours of gym so I can go to Fat Quang Pagoda to learn meditation? All right. The father agrees. He is flexible. He opens up. Why? Because he is compassionate, generous, he understands, and he is very wise. He doesn't scrutinize everything. The law of karma is like that. It follows us, not a single thought escapes it. It is very strict. We cannot escape the law of karma. But the law of karma has a flexibility within it. When we plant an evil fruit, we can run to the ends of the earth. But we can never escape the painful result. But when we make an effort to do good things, a vast horizon opens up for us. We have many ways to choose. That's how it is. Today, we've been talking in circles about this. What's the point? How long have I been talking now, my child? 1 hour and 40 minutes? I had planned to say more, but looking at everyone's suffering faces, I don't want to create more evil karma in my life. So I will stop. But today we said this, the universe is vast and endless with billions and billions of laws that we will never, ever know completely. However, to summarize, the universe has only 3 foundations. 1, matter, 2, spirit or consciousness, and 3, the law of karma. Each of these elements has its own countless laws, but that's for another time. If we just know these 3, we have grasped the universe in our, what? Can we dare say in our hands? No, we just know it for fun. We can't grasp it, unless we are enlightened. If you are enlightened like a Buddha, then, as they say, All of space is held in the palm of your hand. Only a Buddha can hold the entire universe in his hand. All three elements, matter, spirit, and the law of karma, the Buddha holds the entire universe in his hand. We cannot hold it all. But we know that the universe rests on these three foundations, matter, spirit, and the law of karma. We understand this so we can see that focusing only on matter is a form of narrow-mindedness. To use matter to try to understand spirit, to use matter to try to understand karma, is a form of narrow-mindedness. We must set the premise from the beginning that there are three elements, and each element has its own path, its own laws. We must acknowledge this from the start to understand the universe. And we return to this point. With just 3 points, we can define a plane. We don't need to touch the plane. With just one phenomenon, one falling apple, Newton opened up an entire new horizon of great physical theory. With just one CCTV camera recording. We know there is a world of the spirits so that we can love them and respect them. And with just one line of a sutra, one verse of a gatha, we can understand that there is the supreme enlightenment of the Buddha in this world, so that we can forever follow him towards that boundless enlightenment. Homage to the original master, Shakyamuni Buddha.